Hello and welcome to another edition of the Weighing Room, where it's just the two of us today to go through the 8 live races on ITV on Saturday with Haydock and Beverley, the two tracks under the spotlight. Paul, no Frankie this week, but the two of us hopefully will find some winners. It's a bit quiet before the storm, isn't it, this week? We've had the Epsom Derby and the Epsom Oaks, and then in a couple, less than 2 weeks' time, it'll be Royal Ascot on the horizon. But still some good racing to get stuck into, isn't there?
Yeah, we still got plenty of competitive action to look forward to. Plenty of familiar names. I know I rode in with a couple of selections that I'm following on from previous weeks, so I'll be hoping they can follow up this weekend. But yeah, Frankie was a late withdrawal. No doubt we'll probably see photos later. He probably jetted off somewhere warm and exotic as per usual.
As per usual, yeah. If it's not Hong Kong, it's somewhere else, isn't it? That's nice and hot.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll have to see
Living the
later.
dream.
Anyway, we'll kick off this week's podcast, and we're going to start at Haydock with their first race of the afternoon, and it's the listed Sky Bet Achilles Stakes over 5 furlongs. At the top of the market, Equilateral, a horse you have put up before at a bigger price, Paul, 100 to 30 at the top of the market. The Tory takes the ride for Charlie Hills. Regional, a winner at your class time out, 4-1. Prince of Pilo for Keith Dalglish, 6-1. Razel, 7-1. Clarendon House, 9-1. Hawker, 10-1. And then 12-1 bar those. When you mentioned at the top of the show a lot of familiar faces, this is one of the races you're definitely talking about, because we've seen a lot of these already this season. We've seen them a lot already through the last few years, taking each other on. Equilateral's a horse you like, as I mentioned. Are you sticking with him this time?
Yeah, I think he's every chance. Does the price reflects of getting his just rewards here? It's hard to believe when you look through his form. His last victory came in 2021, February 2021. That was over in Medan. His last home victory came in February 2019. And although he hasn't got his head in front, he has been running pretty well in defeat. Like before his last run, like the most he's been beaten was 4.5, 6.5 lengths. That was Doncaster, September 2022. Like he finished 8-12 on the. When you look at that, you might think, geez, like he'd need to improve. But when you look, he's only been beaten 4.5 lengths by the winner. Likewise, the time before that, both of those runs I'm talking about were in Medan. Last time he ran a cracker. I tipped him up at 25-1. And each way selection, he ran a cracker to finish second. That was in the Group 2 Temple Stakes over course and distance. And the high numbers certainly dominated that day at Haydock. I thought maybe on reflection, Frankie could have sat a little closer to the ones in front. When you looked at the side camera, he was a little bit keen in Frankie's hands, but when the camera turned side on, he was still a good 2.5 lengths behind the horse in front. Would it have made a huge difference to the results? I'm not so sure. But Dramatise certainly got up along the stand side rail and took Equilateral's racing line. So Frankie had to switch out and come off the rail, which wasn't ideal. I'm not 100% sure if it made, which we never know, if it made a huge difference to the result. But I thought maybe if Frankie had to get another bite at that he may have sat just a little bit closer to the ones in front. But he's a horse that Frankie knows well, and I think Equilateral, there's been no change. He's best priced 100 to 30. There's been no change in the price since I done the bit of research yesterday. And yeah, I think Equilateral, I think he'll get his just reward here and go one better than that one last seen.
Yeah, he's solid. Equilateral. He's a horse. Well, I think you've put up more so than me, but I'll put him up a few times because he does seem to always mix it with quite a very good horses, but never be able to actually go and win. When you're dropping him back into listed company with a lot of these horses, probably are their top level at listed company. This horse has proved it in group races. So if he can bring that form to the table here, yes, you can see why he's the favourite 130. The one I like, and it's not that I don't like Equilateral, but I just wanted to have a little go at one at a bigger price, and I'll explain why. It's Prince of Pilo, 6-1 for Keith Dalglish. Ryan Moore taking the ride. Midland Park have been absolutely flying this season. They do have another one in here in Clarendon House, but this looks like they're number one in the race. This horse is one of the only horses in the field that could go on to be much better than what we've already seen. I don't think any horses in this field are going to reach any more higher heights. I think we've seen how good they can be. Whereas this horse is a 3-year-old. He's going to be getting £4 off the majority of the field, and he's only raced what, 6 times. So there could be a lot to come from this horse, and I think there is, and I think that's why it's 6-1. He's a great each way player, but I think he'll go very, very close. He started his career last term at Ayr over 6 furlongs when scoring really well on good ground. He was dropped to 5 furlongs at Ripon in a condition stakes. He made it 2 out of 2. Those were his first 2 runs. He showed a great attitude, and I just thought then he's going to go and kick on. He was sent to Doncaster on soft ground, and he finished a credible 4th of 8 in the Group 2 Flying Childers. That was behind Trillium, the Platinum Queen, Crispy Cat, all very good group performers last season. Seen twice more before the end of the season. He got back to winning ways at Ayr, absolutely bolted up in a listed event, and then finished last term at Newmarket when 3rd in the Group 3 Cornwallis Stakes, which was another solid run. Makes his seasonal debut in this event. Like I said, he's a year older. He could mature. He's only 3 years of age. A lot of horses in the field are older, 5, 6, 7, 8. He could be the one in the field, like I say, that could go on to be better than these, only being 3 years of age and getting £4. I think 6-1's a fair price to find out, just to see how good he is. So Prince of Pilo for me in the opener. Right, we're going to stay at Haydock for our next event, and it is the 150 Sky Bet Reverence Handicap over 6 furlongs. Again, we see some familiar faces in here. All the King's Men at the top of the market for George Bowie. Mr. Wagyu, what a horse. I absolutely love him. 11-2. Silver Samurai, 9-1. And then 11-1 bar those. Paul, who did you come down on in this one?
I've gone with Silver Samurai. At the moment, all the King's Men is his best price, 130, sitting top of the market for George Bowie and Ryan Moore. I think he's had plenty of chances to get his head in front. He wears the blinkers and tongue tie. I think, looking through his form, he's a horse. When he's held up, he stays on, and you think, geez, we could have ridden him handier, closer to the pace today. When he's ridden close to the pace, he ends up tiring and dropping away. So I think he's had his chances. He should be thereabouts, but best price 130, not for me. I'd like to see him maybe if he was 4 or 5-1, I'd maybe get involved. But at the prices, course and distance winner, and with Silver Samurai, who has the first time cheek pieces. That course and distance success was under jockey Ben Curtis, who's back on here on Saturday. That was off a handicap mark of 92. Lines up here off 95. As I mentioned at the top of the show, at the last meeting at Haydock, the high numbers were favoured along the Sandside Rail. Silver Samurai drawn in 14, like Equilateral in the openers, drawn in stall 10. Silver Samurai is drawn in 14, and yeah, I think he's a bit of value. His best price at 9-1. I was just looking at he's had 3 starts this season, Silver Samurai, and you look like the last run at York, that was back on the 17th of May, James, and he finished 15-21, and a bit like I was saying with Equilateral, a couple of comparisons here. He finished 15-21 in a race won by Bielsa, but he was only beaten 5.5 lengths by the winner. The time before that, he was beaten 5 3/4 lengths by Probe. Again, on his first start of the season, finished 4-12. The official distance was 3 lengths by the winner. That was at Kempton back on the 10th of April. So he's not from 3 this season, but he has been running well. And with a nice draw here, back on his favourite Haydock, best price 9-1. I like Silver Samurai.
Yeah, good case put forward. Like you said, you really have got to look into these runs, because if you just looked on the form card and you look 4, 9, 0,
you wouldn't touch him, would you?
You wouldn't. But when you're looking, he's dropping down the handicap, and not finishing that far behind the winners in quite competitive races. Yeah, off a mark of 95, could come back to form. But Paul, I've got to rain on your parade here, because one of my favourite sprinters is running again. I put him up last week. He ran a credible race in 3rd. But at 11-2 on Saturday, this horse has got an absolutely superb chance. Mr. Wagyu, I can't desert him. And I don't think... do you know what? I'm not going to desert this horse all June and July until it wins. I'm going to keep going until the horse wins, because this horse will win in between June and July. I spoke about this horse last week. You've got to disregard anything this horse does before or after June and July. He has won 15 times for John Quinn during his career. All of them have come in June and July. If you also look, when he's turned out within 7 days of his last run, he's won 6 of his 11 runs. So he doesn't mind being sent out straight after another run. The start of his campaign always sees him drop down the handicap. And then in the later stage of the season, he tries to do the same because he does all his winning in June and July, and then he reaches the low 100s, middle 100s, about 105, and he can't run to that level. So it's all about getting down to the mark he is now. The same happened this term. He ran 3 times, competitive 5 furlong, 6 furlong handicaps, Newmarket, Ripon and York, without really threatening. Didn't finish too far behind these runners, like you said, with Silver Samurai, but he went from 101 to 96, and he was never sent to these racecourses to go and win. If you actually look at him now, he's running off the same mark of 96 that he ran out at Epsom, a race he won last year. And if you actually look back at that race, he went from the front with a lot of horses, and he was the only one to go from the front to actually stay on. He only finished a length behind Badri and Apollo 1 that came from off the pace. So if he was ridden slightly different, Mr. Wagyu probably would have won that race because it was an absolutely solid run off 96. He runs off the same mark here. Back at Haydock, over a course and distance he performs really well at. He's won 2 races out of 3 runs at the track, and the one he lost was on absolutely bottomless heavy ground. And so it's going to be 27 degrees at Haydock on Saturday. He loves the sun. He loves it rock solid ground. He's going to get that. I just think 11-2, Mr. Wagyu, he's got an absolutely massive chance. He's got so many things going for him. He loves it this time of year, and I think 11-2 is a lovely price. So I might have given away one of my best bets on the card, but I love Mr. Wagyu. I hope he goes and does it. So he's my selection in that one. The first race of the afternoon from Beverley we're going to cover then on Saturday is the Hilary Needler Trophy Fillies Condition Stakes over 5 furlongs. And there's a lot of horses in this field, Paul, we don't know too much about, only seen them once during their career. But from what you've seen, who took your eye for this race?
Has to be Midnight Affair, I think, for Richard Fahey and Danny Tudhope. You know, the selection was thought, she was thought good enough to make a racecourse debut at Newmarket. It was like Annie Maiden. It was a funny enough race. You know, she was a little slow from the gates, then, you know, regained a nice position, but crucially, she had her run checked at a crucial stage of the race, and momentum all was stopped. She had to switch the far side. All the action was happening up the stand side, and she came home pretty good under Danny Tudhope. She was only beaten a little over a length by the winner, and I think the turn of foot she showed in the last furlong and a half or so, I think it's Midnight Affair's race to lose, really. I think it's going to take a fair performance here to beat this selection. She's best priced at 5-4. The next in the betting's around about 4-1. She's drawn as stall number 6, and I think Midnight Affair will take the beating in this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much we're going to agree through the pod, but we normally do. But it's quite a tough weekend with a lot running, but we'll definitely agree on this one. Midnight Affair. A horse I actually put up in an article on our website after she run in the Guineas meeting. If you look at that run behind Soprano, she hit all kinds of traffic and absolutely flew home to stay on and not to lose by far behind Soprano. And I think that the George Bowie team really do like Soprano. So for that horse to run on beautifully in behind on debut said to me that this horse is going to go on and be very good. Another thing that I like is that obviously Danny Tudhope could have probably picked up some nice rides at Haydock. I know he does ride for Clipper Logistics anyway, but he comes to Beverley to ride this horse. I think they think this could be quite special. I think 5-4 is a fair price of what she did last time out. She's bred with an absolute abundance of speed, costing 180,000 guineas. I just think her form is the most rock solid in the field. Ziggy Phoenix was a nice one at Chester, but that was on soft ground. Look, we don't know about some of these, really. Flora Bermuda is going to come on for that run. Never Fear, obviously a winner. And Alpha Moonstone at 20-1 was probably one that was really interesting from an each-way perspective. But no, for me, I think Midnight Affair should win this, should go on to boost that form from Newmarket. I've been waiting for this horse to run. I would maybe like a slightly bigger price when you're waiting quite a bit of time for a horse to run, but Midnight Affair, 5-4, I think she's solid, and I think she gets it done.
Given the entries as well, James, like Soprano, I think holds a couple of big entries later on in the season, and I'd be more afraid of Flora of Bermuda, Andrew Balding's horse from stall 2, but she doesn't hold any big entries at the moment. So for that reason, all things considered, I think Midnight Affair looks a strong bet here.
Yeah, she just needs to get a clear passage. If you watch that race back, she hit so much trouble all the time. Had to go wide, hit the dip, and when she came out the dip, she flew home. I think it will be hopefully a much easier task at Beverley, if she's getting a clear run. But we'll have to see. But she looks solid, and she looks like a big talent for Richard Fahey. Another tough punting event on the card at Haydock this time on Saturday is the 225 better betting with Sky Bet Handicap over 1 mile 4 furlongs. Paul, kick us off in this one. This sees plenty of familiar faces again, as does a lot of the races at Haydock.
Yeah, maybe not a race that I'd be getting heavily involved with from a punting angle. I've gone with Dark Pine, who's only tried a 1.5 miles once in 23 starts. That was at Lingfield. Pedigree certainly wouldn't scream a 1.5 miles for Dark Pine, but comes here on the back of a decent effort over the sharp extended 1.2 trip at Chester. He finished second behind City Streak, was only beaten by the neck by the winner, and he ran to the line on that occasion, definitely indicating that was worth another crack over this trip of 1 mile and 4 furlongs. Does like to be dropped in, so we'll be hoping for a fast pace and a little bit of luck. And I think we've got a cracking jockey book in here, Laura Pearson, who claims a valuable £3 off 8 stone 9. So best price at 8 to 1. It's Dark Pine for me.
Yep, Dark Pine. Last seen him running really well at Chester, and he actually ran really well in that race the year before as well. So 8 to 1, 1 mile 4. I was similar to you, Paul, in that I can't have a big opinion in this race. But the one that stood out for me was Good Show for Keith Dalglish. I think Keith Dalglish could have quite a good day, actually. Only sending, I think, 3 runners over to the track, and I think 2 of them have got really, really big chances. Starting this term off in the Queen's Cup at Musselburgh over 1 mile 6 furlongs, he either didn't stay the trip or he needed the run. I couldn't quite tell because he finished 10th of 14. I just don't think that was his true running at all. The form of the race has actually worked out quite well with the top 2 since run incredibly. Metier obviously won the Chester Cup, and the winner, Wise Eagles, come out and run really well at Ascot in a Group 3. Dropped back to 1 mile 5. He ran a better race at Hamilton. He finished a close third behind Postilio. Postilio was running off a long time break, but was actually looked really well handicapped. Anyway, last time he was seen at 1 mile 4 at Hamilton again in the Class 3 handicap. 1 mile 4 looks to be his absolute optimum trip. That was off a marker 89. And he got back to winning ways. He runs today off £3 higher for marker. Actually, I think he might be £2 higher for marker 91. He ran up 88 and he is £3 high today, off a marker 91. Like I said, this trip is absolutely what he wants. I don't know how good the others are around him. Obviously, Get Shirty has ran credibly. The Charlie Fellows horse might want the ground slightly softer, but it's a very tricky race. But I thought Good Show, maybe 5 to 1, might be one of the most solid ones off the back of his run last time out, running again. 1 mile 4, only getting £3 for that run. So yeah, Good Show 5 to 1 will be my selection in that one. The races don't get easier on ITV. We're going to go back to Beverley for their second race on ITV, and it sees the Class 4 Bet365 Handicap over 7.5 furlongs. I thought this was a bit of a minefield, Paul. What do you think?
Yeah, I've gone with United Front, who was second in a similar event at Yarmouth back on the 1st of June under William Buick. Was a beaten favourite under Rashid Murphy over in Maidan back in February. That was over 8 furlongs. Got quite tired towards the finish. So a stiff 7.5 here might just do the trick. You're not at the mile trip, but it almost would be the equivalent of a mile elsewhere. It's quite a stiff uphill finish here at Beverley. Nice draw in stall number 2, and I think should go close here. So United Front, who's currently best priced at 11 to 2.
Yeah, Oisin Murphy taking the ride as well, which is always a really big bonus. So 11 to 2 shot. I went for the one at the top of the market. Hugo Gregory, a winner over course and distance of £10 higher during his career. This season he's been seen 4 times, making his seasonal debut at Ripon over a mile. When a fair 4th of 12 that was on soft ground up a marker 65. He was dropped a pound for his next run at Beverley over one furlong further than this event. And he was a next second in a Class 5 event, again on soft ground, over the same course and distance, but this time £2 higher. He could only manage fourth, but dropped back in trip to today's course and distance. He finished a nose second when well fancied for the race. So he's running again over the same course and distance. He has gone up in the handicap slightly to a mark of 68. He's got the tongue strap and cheek pieces on today. I just thought this, even though he's been running in class 5s, I thought this was a weak class 4. And having form at the track, I thought he holds every chance. But it's another race on the ITV card that I wouldn't have a strongest opinion of. But I think Hugo Gregory, he's one of the more likely winners in the field. Moving on to the first group race of the afternoon from Haydock then. And it sees the Group 3 Sky Bet Leicester Pigot Stakes over 1 mile 4 furlongs. And this is one of the better races of the afternoon, Paul. We see Modara, who's at the top of the market, 3-1, who's come for some money already. Time Lock, 3-1 joint favourite as well. Mimikyu, a horse I napped last week that got, 2 weeks ago, that got beaten somehow at York, absolutely killed me. I couldn't believe it. 7-2. And then you've got 3 other runners. Sea Silk Road in there at 8-1 and 14-1. Poptronic with Natros at 7s as well. Paul, I think it's out the top 3 in the market personally. And I think it's one of them where Time Lock and Mimikyu have shown their class already, whereas Modara hasn't, but could be the one with all the big potential. So who did you side with?
Well, I'm going to stick with Mimikyu, who I didn't nap, but I think I was on the road in behind you with Mimikyu the last day. I thought it was a funny old race at York. Like, she was second. It was a Group 3 contest. Kieran O'Neill was on board. She jumped out. She wore the hood, and she jumped out a little bit keen. Then she got outpaced at a crucial stage when the race quickened, turning for home. And then all of a sudden, and it was through no fault of Kieran's, I think Kieran was riding the filly as he found her, and trying to keep her in the race. I think she ended up in front probably too soon. But she doesn't look the most straightforward. Like I would have said from watching her at York the last day, she was either ran a little bit green when she came off the bridle, or maybe the head just came up ever so slightly. But she tended to run about a bit. Just when they came off the home turn and she came off the bridle. I'd say, looking at her, I think she's a filly that's quite immature and possibly still learning on the job. I know she has 3 wins to her name and she's had 8 starts, and you might think, well, you could be talking gibberish here, but I do think from a race at York, she is quite immature and still possibly learning. Will get better with her racing. I think there's more to come from Mimikyu, and I think 7-2. Frankie's on board. 7-2 is a fair price.
It will hurt. It will hurt if Mimikyu wins, because I'm not gonna. I'm gonna
jumping ship.
I'm jumping ship. Yeah, it's just that she's got to give £5 to the top 2 in the market. And for me, that York race wasn't all that strong. And I know it's her first run of the season and she could improve massively, like you say. And she does look like a massive work in progress, already being a winner over course and distance at Haydock. So, look, she could bounce back to even though she wasn't not form when she was second by a nose or short head, whatever it was. I think she should have been winning that. She definitely could come here and do really well, but I'm going to jump off. I found it tricky between all 3 at the top of the market. Time Lock, I think, would definitely come on for the run last time out. Harry and Roger Tarleton are now back in form, having had a torrid start of the season. They're now 33% the last 2 weeks. But I'm going for potential overclass shown with Modara. Modara was actually 4-1 when I started looking at this yesterday, and now into 3-1 favourite. I like that a lot. I wanted to see a bit of money come, and hopefully more money plows in, because that if there wasn't any money come, you'd think, well, they wouldn't. She's not good enough for this level. They wouldn't fancy her, but they obviously do, and I do think she can win at this level. And I think if she does go and beat Time Lock and Mimikyu, who have already shown it, I think she's put a real marker for how good she could be. She made a debut over 1 mile 2 at Yarmouth last term, win a solid 4th, learned a lot of the experience. She was then seen once more as a 3-year-old, getting off the mark at Chelmsford in really good fashion. She put up an absolutely emphatic performance at Kempton when stepped up to 1 mile 4 on seasonal debut this term, bolting up by 13 lengths in a filly's novice stakes under a big penalty. Visually, she looked seriously impressive that day. And although she needs to prove it in group company where Time Lock and Mimikyu have, I think she could turn out to be very exciting. If I had to pick between Mimikyu and Time Lock, who I think my biggest rival is, I would probably go Time Lock, because it's just the yard form and what she did last time. She just blew out late on and losing by a length behind, quite a progressive horse. And she travelled beautifully into it. I think she'll be much better for that run. But I think if Modara is anything like what she showed at Kempton, she could be a seriously, seriously talented horse. If you actually look on RPRs, she's only raced 3 times, Modara, and she's actually on RPRs only rated £1 below Time Lock and Mimikyu. Mimikyu's got to give £5 to the both of them. The betting shows at the top of the market how tough it is, 3-1, 3-1, 7-2. But Modara is going to be the one I'm going to pin my nail to. So yeah, Modara for me. But if Mimikyu wins for you, I'll be pleased for you, Paul, but I'll be absolutely gutted that I've jumped off. So, but that's stuff that happens every week with us, doesn't it? The penultimate event then of the afternoon on Saturday is Beverley's final event on ITV, and it's their feature of the day, the 315 Bet365 2-year-old trophy condition stakes over 5 furlongs. Paul, this is a race similar to the other one on the card that we've only seen some of these once, twice throughout their career, and we just don't know how good they're going to be. At the top of the market, we've got Cuban Slide 11-4, lovely grey for Cole Burke, who bolted up last time out. Bombay Bazaar for Richard Fahey, course and distance winner 3-1. Fusterlandia 100-30 for Richard Hannon and Kevin Stott. Room Service 4-1, and then you've got 16-1 bar those. So there's 4 at the top of the market, very tightly clumped in the betting. But who's the one you liked?
Yeah, I think lower numbers to the 4 here, James. Just keep an eye if you are betting when runners are going down to the start, we'd say for the first of the 5 furlong events at Beverley. Sometimes they move the inside rail out a bit, and that leaves the horses with the wide draws not at as big a disadvantage. But when they have the inside rail quite, when they have it further towards the inside of the track, it does put the horses on the outside, the high numbers, at quite a disadvantage. Just that's something to maybe bear in mind when they're going down for the first of the races over the minimum trip. This is probably one of the races of the day, James. Any one of the top 4 probably could win it. I think I'd be surprised if it comes from outside the top 4. I've gone with Cuban Slide for Carol Burke. Sam James was on board Cuban Slide's racecourse debut victory at Musselburgh. I'd be slightly cautious that the official winning distance was 9 lengths. I'd be slightly cautious that wasn't flattering, and that the first 2 who had racecourse experience went off at a fair rate of knots. And if you stop the race, victory looked highly unlikely for Cuban Slide. If you stop the race approaching the 3 furlong mark, Sam James had to give him a backhander behind the saddle. He was flat out from the word go. They went off at a huge rate of knots, and what would back that up is that the first and second sat well off the pace. The horse that finished second was last throughout the contest. And on the positive side, Cuban Slide visually was very impressive, hit the line very strong, took some time to pull up. And there was probably a length separating the first and second. Approaching the 3 furlong mark, there was 9 lengths separating them at the finishing line. So clearly a horse looks like a horse with a big engine. Shane Gray takes up. We can't get Dundalk form into the podcast this week, James, but we can get a Dundalk native in it, Shane Gray, and I'll be hoping he can steer Cuban Slide to victory for Carol Burke.
Oh, this pod every week surprises me with Paul, how you can get the Dundalk.
There's always an angle.
always. No, I think your summary then of Cuban Slide's absolutely bang on, because if you go back and watch that race, you thought, no way this horse can win this race. And then the front 2 just absolutely blew up. Not to say Cuban Slide wasn't impressive how he picked up from being flat out, but with the only 4 runners in the field, it's so hard to see how good that form actually is. And I guess we'll find out. But visually, when he pulled away from the field, he looked a lovely grade, didn't he? And I think there is more to come.
Yeah.
A horse I definitely looked at. The horse I've gone with is Fusterlandia, though. Bramo Racing, Richard Hannon and Kevin Stott. Made his debut only 11 days ago, over 6 furlongs at Leicester on good to firm ground. He looked the winner all the way and was just collared late home by what looks a very smart horse for Richard Fahey in Golden Mind. If you go back and watch that race, Golden Mind absolutely flew home. I'd love to see the sectional of that last furlong, because that was absolutely rapid to get home. Fusterlandia absolutely ran a brilliant race, but maybe this drop to 5 furlongs is exactly what he needs. he'll look to absolutely suit on first evidence from what that race was. Not that he ran badly over the last furlong at Leicester, but the speed he showed early on, how he travelled into the race, showed to me that he's quite a quick type. Like you mentioned, Cuban Slide was one I noted down visually, very impressive when going away. But I just thought at a slightly bigger price, Fustalandia, maybe even though the Ammo Racing horse strip fit for their first run, I think he'll learn a lot for that first experience. Obviously, Kevin Stott, number one rider for Ammo Racing, comes over for the ride as well, which is big. So yeah, Fustalandia, 100 to 30 will be my selection in the final race at Beverley. The final race at Haydock and the final race on ITV is their feature. Over 7 furlongs on Saturday, and it sees the Group 3 John of Gaunt Stakes over 7 furlongs, and only 6 horses go to post, and it's a very, very strange race, really, because you have the astrologist at the top of the market coming over from Australia, 11 to 4. I'd love to see the numbers, Paul, on horses from Australia that haven't run at Royal Ascot or won at Royal Ascot, winning outside of Royal Ascot. You don't see many, do you, that actually come over from Australia that don't run at Royal Ascot? So running at Haydock is a bit of a strange one. El Caballo for Carl Burke, 3 to 1. Jumbie, 3 to 1 as well for Eve Johnson Horton. The Wizard of I5s, Boardman 12s, and Gorak, the big outsider, at 100 to 1. Paul, the astrologist, 11 to 4. He's got to be much better than his run at York last time, but Ryan Moore taking the ride's quite a big bonus. Are you with him, or are you looking elsewhere in the field?
I'm with him. And I'm with him because when you look down through the field, the only two that are coming in here on the back of a bit of form is the two outsiders, Boardman and Gorak. Boardman 12 to 1, Gorak 100 to 1. Boardman, previous course and distance winner, would need to step up. Was a winner last time out. Phil Dennis rides for Tim Easterby. Drawn and stall 4, 12 to 1. You could maybe do worse than have a small wager on a fun bet, maybe on Boardman, if you were to get involved. But yeah, the astrologist shouldn't mind the climate, should love the ground. Ryan Moore was on board last time out, so you'd imagine it's a tactic that connections are playing here. They're going to keep Ryan on board. Was 7 to 10 in a Group 2 on UK debut, finished second in a Group 1 over in Medan in March, and I think only for that Group 1 effort in Medan in March, I probably might just go the fun route with Boardman. But the astrologist is a Group 3 winner in his native Australia, and at 11 to 4, I'd be happy to get involved at 11 to 4. Certainly not I don't think the price will shorten, but if it did, I'd be kind of leaving him alone. But at the prices at the moment, I'd be getting involved with the astrologist.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think any shorter you can pick. I think you can pick holes in every runner here. That's why, even though it is probably feature races, it's a very, very tricky one to go through because all of them have blew out once in their career or more than once. So you've just got to go back to some of their best form and try and rely on that. Yeah, the astrologist, 11 to 4. I think if you go shorter, I would go nowhere near him. I'm not going to go anywhere near him anyway, so I'm going to go with El Caballo. And he's another one who's got to be on redemption mission, but a very progressive horse early on in his career, picking up 6 wins in a row. Starting as a 2-year-old and winning on his second start as a juvenile over 5 furlongs. Then on his final start as a 2-year-old, he stepped up to 6 furlongs and beat the talented Novello, who we saw Novello land in a lovely handicap last week at Epsom. Starting his 3-year-old campaign off at Newcastle, easily winning the condition stakes. He then went up to 7 furlongs at Lingfield in the listed all-weather fast-track qualifier, and he took to the trip really well to score by a length. Dropped back to 6 furlongs for the all-weather 3-year-old championships. He made it 5 on the spin to collar Tiber Flow late on for William Haggis. That was a superb performance. And then on his only run at Haydock, over 6 furlongs, it was in the Group 2 Sandy Lane Stakes, and he showed clear progression to make it 6 wins on the bounce. To see off Flaming Rib, who's absolutely rapid with a late challenge, and he went on to win by just a neck that day. And we got Wings of War, Go Bears Go, Katora, some decent horsing behind that day. So El Caballo showing he's got can have form of the track. That was on good ground as well. Since then, though, he's been seen on 2 occasions. He's blowed out on both runs. He went to the Commonwealth Cup, up to a Group 1 at Royal Ascot, was 18th to 20, ran no race at all. I'm not sure what happened, but maybe being at Group 1 level or just a lot of runs in quick succession didn't work out. And then when first seeing this season in April, on heavy ground in the listed Camage Trophy, look, he's not a heavy ground horse. Heavy ground massively went against him. It was probably just used to get him out, to give him a spin for bigger targets down the line. But he finished 10th of 10, ran no race at all. You've got to disregard that totally. Get him back to Haydock, a track he's won at before. Get him back to quicker ground. I think he's got all the ingredients to bounce back to form, being a serial winner in his time. So El Caballo at 3-1. You're relying on him coming back to his best form, but with a lot of holes in a lot of the field, I'm happy to play him at 3-1. That's all the races covered then, Paul, for Haydock and Beverley on ITV this Saturday. All we need now is our naps of the weekend. And I think it was just me who landed the nap last week, 6-1 Torito. I know you tipped it as well, Paul. We both said he was a group horse in a handicap, and he proved that, making a mockery of his mark of 95. So hopefully we can make it the full house with me and you this week. I'll let you start. Who are you going for?
Yeah, other than that, James, I think last week was pretty bleak now for myself.
Oh, yeah.
But this week I've gone with Equilateral. Yeah, tough going. Onwards and upwards. I'm with Equilateral. Charles Hills, Frankie Dettori, second last time out. I think Connections, if he doesn't win here, I don't know where Connections go for victory. He's been contesting warmer events. We spoke about him earlier on in the show, and I think Connections have found an ideal opportunity to get his head back in front. So Equilateral, the nap for this week.
Lovely stuff. Equilateral 100-30. I think you're right. Even though I haven't gone with this horse, if he doesn't win in a race like this, where does he go? I know he's 8 years of age, but he's still got racing in him. So you're going in the first race of the day at Haydock. I'm going in the second race of the day, and I think you know where I'm going here. 11-2, Mr. Wagyu. Double them up in the sprints at the top of the show at Haydock. For all the reasons I said earlier, look, 15 winners in his career, all come in June and July. 6 wins from 11 when turned out within 7 days, and he's running 7 days after he's run at Epsom. 2 wins from 3 at Haydock. The 2 wins came on good ground. The one he lost was on bottomless heavy ground at Haydock that he doesn't like at all. £4 below his last winning mark. Runs off the same mark of 96 when third last time out. I could keep going all day. How much this horse has got going for him on Saturday. So Mr. Wagyu 11-2 will be my nap of the weekend. Paul, hopefully we've landed a double there. It'd be nice if we both landed our naps this week. Thanks as always for your selections. It's like we said, it's the calm before the storm, really, with Haydock and Beverley, but still some nice events to get stuck into. As always, please be sure to like this video, comment your naps or any selections you have for the weekend below, and make sure to subscribe to the Winners and Closer channel to check out all of the content we've got. All the best wherever you are back in this weekend, and thanks for watching.